Welcome to Piece Timepiece. Today we have something very special. Somehow this low-rate and low-brow watch channel got the drop on another all-time great, the Seiko Alpinist Red. Dating back to 1961, the Seiko Alpinist is one of the brand's longest-running models and a true Seiko Hall of Fame watch. It's allegedly inspired by the spirit of the Yama-Otoko, mythological mountain men that were 20 feet tall and ran barefoot through the mountains. According to lore, they were dim-witted and ate human babies. That's right, they ate human babies. Ladies and gentlemen, the Seiko Alpinist Red. So here it is, the Red. The first of the modern Alpinists. The Red was made for only 2 years, 95 and 96. It was built by the Japanese for the Japanese, being a domestic market only release. If you're ever lucky enough to own a JDM Seiko, there's an authenticity that, if you have one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This watch is designed as a mountaineering and explorer's watch. You know, Alpinist, the Alps. Well, not the Alps, but some Alps. The Japanese Alps, which also exist. Right off the bat, this watch looks like nothing else on the market. Before or since, really. Even its modern descendant, the Green Alpinist, has a different, much more refined look. This is a no-frills monochromatic tool watch. White on black on stainless. But that's a big reason why I chose this particular version. It's the only modern Alpinist with that color scheme. So let's start with the dial. It's very legible, moderately busy but high contrast. We see the famous spiderweb dial pattern. Let me know in the comments if you know of any other watch that has that. I've seen crosshair dials. Let me pull one of those up. Right? So I've seen full crosshair dials, like on this incredible 37mm Devil Diver Accutron Deep Sea from 1970. A grail I just picked up. Video coming soon. But the idea is that crosshairs increase the immediate orientation and readability. The spiderweb really kind of takes that to the next level, but I'm not sure it's any more effective. I was really looking forward to the spiderweb dial, but in practice, it's harder to see than I expected. It's a satin pattern against a matte finish. In some pictures, it looks very obvious, but when it's on the wrist, I really don't even see it. We have applied triangular indices, deep filled with Seiko's loom. We have a rotating internal chapter ring bezel that you operate with a second crown. The internal compass bezel is inseparable now from the Alpinist, but this model was the very first to introduce that. You operate it with the lower crown, which is chunky enough to operate with gloves on. That's a well thought out detail in a mountaineering watch. It even smells like Japan. Nah, just kidding. It came from Long Island. Don't worry, I washed it. You can see up top an applied Seiko logo with automatic below that. You can see the iconic Alpinist typeface in red, the reason behind this watch's name. They've used the same typeface as the very first Alpinist from 1961, the Seiko Laurel Alpinist. It's a typeface that, as far as I'm concerned, belongs on the back of a classic American car, and it's awesome. Below that, 20-bar water resist, 200 meters. Diashock, which is Seiko's proprietary impact and shock absorption system. And then below that, 25 joules. So we have cathedral hands that are as iconic as they are unconventional for a modern sport watch. Look at that round hour hand floating on the dial like a lily pad. Very Japanese. It's probably my favorite part of the watch. I can't imagine that hour hand on anything but a Seiko, certainly not anything Swiss. The seconds hand has a very distinctive counterbalance and ends in a nice sharp point. I like that the loom on the seconds hand is far from the hand stack. Really emphasizes that smooth sweep. This is a high beat movement. We'll get into that shortly. You can see the Sine Crown with the Seiko S. The crown has a unique knurling. It alternates between a polished finished and fine engraving. It looks cool, but it's not great functionally as it's pretty slippery. Let's check out the case back. It's understated, it's classic, it's iconic. I'm a big fan of the Alpinist logo. For a bracelet with hollow end links and a stamped fold-over clasp, it works pretty well. It's a 3-piece bracelet, fully brushed, and it features screwed links. Here's one thing you might not have heard. This watch uses a Saflex crystal. It's flat with a cyclops on the date window. Saflex was a fairly short-lived Seiko proprietary crystal. It was essentially Hardlex, Seiko's composite mineral glass, but with a sapphire coating. Rumor has it that the manufacturing process for Saflex was actually more expensive than that of sapphire, so they understandably stopped production. Now let's get some dimensions, and yes, every time, the real star of this show, The Royal Swiss-made caliper is endorsed by 2 old-school German woodworking machinists, a pedigree other calipers can only imagine. Let's take a look at the dimensions. We have a case diameter of about 37.5 millimeters, an overall thickness just over 10.5 millimeters thick, and a very manageable 43 millimeter lug to lug. Not a huge fan of that. 19 millimeter lugs. Come on, Seiko. With the crown, it is just about 40.5 millimeters. So even though this is a 37.5 millimeter watch, it actually wears smaller than that. Let me see. I've got a 30 here. So here is a 37 millimeter watch. The Citizen Eco Drive is actually my first kind of real watch. Got this thing like 10 years ago. This is 37 millimeters too, but you can see it wears much larger. I would say that the Seiko Alpinist might even wear like a 36. Granted, this Citizen wears big for a 37, but this Seiko Alpinist Red is not a big watch. Now, the movement. It's a big reason why this watch is so special. This watch uses the Seiko 4S15 movement. This high beat 4S15 is a high performance movement. It was used in the 70s in chronometer grades King Seiko luxury watches until falling victim to the quartz crisis. In the early 90s, with the reemergence of the mechanical wristwatch, the movement was briefly reintroduced to a few Seiko models before being reserved exclusively for the Credor line of high-end watches. The 4S15 was used only in a few Seikos during the development of the now famous 6R15 movement, which ended up being the movement they put in this watch's successor. Now, I said high beat, but that comes with a bit of an asterisk. By today's standards, high beat is typically reserved for 36,000 beats per hour, meaning the second hand moves 10 times each second. The 4S15's beat rate is 28,800, meaning the second hand moves 8 times per second, which maybe that's not a true high beat, but it is uncommonly high for a Seiko. The movement does, of course, feature hacking seconds and hand winding. So the power reserve is 40 hours, and it has a listed accuracy range of -10 to +15 seconds per day using a thermocompensating balance and hairspring. It also features a micro-regulating pin, meaning no free-sprung balance wheel. I don't know the service history behind this watch, but I'm getting +6 seconds a day with this one. Very impressive. The water resistance, 20 bar, 200 meters. That's dive watch territory. One of the great features of this Go Anywhere Explorer's watch. It does so with the use of a screw-down crown, a feature typically reserved for dive watches. It's just another reason why the Alpinist has been embraced on such a widespread level. Let's check out the 23-year-old Loom. Now, people of the future, at time of filming, the current Alpinist, the SARB 017, has just been announced to be discontinued, launching Seiko fanboys into a veritable frenzy. Prices have been skyrocketing. It's like Elmo back in '96. People are flooding onto eBay and snagging what they can when they can. It's every man, woman, and child for themselves out here. I've seen green Alpinists sell for basically what I paid for this classic. If you want an Alpinist and don't feel like getting gouged, this might represent a decent alternative. Price is always a bit uncouth to discuss, but these are informational videos, so screw it. I paid $600 for this pretty recently. It's not the best example, but it means I can wear this without worrying about it. I'd say $600 is right around where these start. In great shape, these sell for over $1,000. Having said that, I think it's a pretty safe bet that these watches will continue to grow in value. It's a rare tool watch with heritage that's also a cult classic with an exotic movement. I mean, what else do you want? Ultimately, for me, the biggest draw of this watch is that there really isn't anything else like it. There is no real Alpinist alternative. There are a few that come close, but nothing else captures the exact vibe of this watch. I feel like the Alpinist is Seiko's very own, very Japanese take on the tool watch. Like Switzerland has the dive watch, Germany has the Flieger, Japan has the Alpinist, and it's excellent. That'll do it for today. If you're watching this as a subscriber, thank you for the early support. Okay, that's enough. Thanks for watching. See you next time.